So we're back in the shop at Harry's Home Garage. We're going to keep cracking away at this head job. I got Donnie in the back right now. He's working on throwing on a door piston for the rear door. And yeah, we're going to just get at this engine here. Alright, we got the head off now. We're going to take the intake manifold off the back of it. That's what Don's working on right now. We're going to get the surface of the block cleaned up. Take a look at that gasket. We're going to be able to reuse this gasket and spray it down with copper and throw it back on there. So we're going to get this ready and just keep getting this head back on. So we've got the intake manifold onto the reconditioned head that we're going to be putting on here, and we got all the bolts torqued down. We started torquing from the inside out, and we did 17 foot-pounds all the way out. And Simon's over here, and he's just sanding down the exhaust manifold to get a better seal on it. We got all the oil out of the bolt holes for the head bolts, and we've got this all cleaned up, ready to accept the head. And then we can start hooking things back up once we get the new gasket back on there and get the head back on. Alright, so we got here a racing gasket, and I read about it online. I heard some stuff on the forums and looked it up. And with this brand of gasket, it's perfectly acceptable to spray it with this copper spray and throw it back in there. And all that's going to do, see where all this coating has come off from the last time it was on, it's just going to fill in all those empty spots. So we're going to spray it, and then we're going to just let it tack up a bit and throw it on there. Alright, we're going to put this on.
Yeah, I see. Dope.
Choose on, that guy. It's on. So we got all the head bolts torqued down. They're just torqued to over 90. We started at just over 20, then went over just over 60, just over 90. I think I had it a little high when I got to this one, and I actually spun this nut a little bit, but I'm sure that with all of the rest of them torqued down just fine, that one's probably very close to where it needs to be, if not past where it needs to be, is why it's spun. That should be just fine. We're going to put on the exhaust manifold now. I just set the gasket in there, you can see it here. And then we're just going to keep cracking away at putting stuff together. We now have the exhaust manifold on and torqued. These are torqued to about 23 foot-pounds, so I'd put it just over 20. We'll call it good. Start at the middle, work your way out, just like most of the stuff on this car when you're torquing it on. Well, we got the cams on, and I was torquing down the cam caps, these things here, and we got to this one, and this guy is stripped out, so the steel bolt was just pulling out the aluminum inside of there. So we're going to tap that out, make it a little bit bigger, and put what's called a heliocoil in there, which is basically a little spring that will allow this to accept the original bolt, and it should be able to be torqued up to over 100 foot-pounds, but we're only looking for 7 foot-pounds, so this should work perfect for what we're trying to do here. So once we get that on, then we can get the other cam on, get it torqued down, get the belt on, make sure that everything is good when we crank it over a bunch of times, redo up the tensioner, and then we can start adjusting all these valves and throw the valve cover back on and start hooking everything else around the engine back up. So Simon here with some tape, paper towel, and a piece of tin foil has made a little shield to make sure that we don't get pieces of aluminum flakes inside of the engine where we don't want them. So that's just a little tip there. If you need to do some drilling and you got oil exposed areas, just make yourself a little shield out of some tin foil and some tuck tape. So we got that in there, we retapped it, put that little spring in there, so you push the little spring inside of it, and then it allows you to use the original bolt, because it'll fill up the thread. We only needed it to hold 7 pounds of torque, and boy, it's probably holding near 8 right now, because I don't know how much actual torque is on that little torque guy. It doesn't go down that low. But anyhow, this is all torqued on, nice and good. Both front and back are torqued on, nice and good. So we can get these nuts holding the cam gears on torqued down. Then we can start thinking about finagling that fancy little belt back up onto here. So we got the timing belt back on. We spun it around 10 times to make sure that it was still in time. It was, so we tightened the tensioner. And then we spun it around a couple more times. And boy howdy, she's still in time. You can't really see it, but right down this little hole here, there's another hole, and it's lined right up. And same with this one. And down there on the crank, the timing mark is lined right up, right where it should be, when these holes are right on the top. So we are sitting pretty.
Yeah.
It is getting late. We've been working on this since the early afternoon, and it's past 9 o'clock in the evening now. We did take a break for supper and a few fresh air breaks, if you will. But we're going to call the video for today. So thanks again for watching Harry's Home Garage. This is part 2 of the head swap. We're going to finish her up with part 3 tomorrow. Drop that video. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the notification button, make sure you get notified as soon as new videos drop. Check out my new website, harryshomegarage.com, built by Bryn Mecker Media and Design from Saskatoon. And that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks for watching.